Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? It's Louisa Carl Munson from the Barefoot Broadcast, and this is day 4 of week 3. I can't believe we've just done 3 weeks worth of episodes. It feels great. I'm really enjoying it, and I can see we've got people joining us live already. We've got Suze who's saying, I can't stay. I'm off to see my friend in hospital, but I sure loved yesterday's show. So watch us on playback, Suze. I saw you on Carl's show earlier, so yeah, I hope all is well there, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. We've also got Owen Lloyd Martin, who's been on twice already. He's joining us. He's saying, looking forward to today's show. We've also got, we've got Getting Real with Dr. Joe. Hey, Dr. Joe, how you doing? When are you coming back on? Let me know when you'd like to come back, because we'd love to have you back. It's always great to be joined by you. I've also got Portuglish joining me. Hey, mate, how you doing? So it's great. We've got loads of people standing by, and today's big question is, do we have soul contracts with each other? And this came up as a question last week, actually, when we had Felix Hyde on. He was talking, we were talking about off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact title, but it was something to the effect of can we maintain happiness when there's adversity? And so the whole idea of soul contracts came up, and somebody wrote me a story, shared a bit of their life history. And I thought it would be a fantastic episode to do with Gillian Alexander, who I'm going to bring on in just a sec. And also we're also joined by Jenny and Slater. Now, Gillian's been on our show before, so I think there's at least 3 episodes, maybe 4. There's a fly that wants to join me as well. I have to ignore him a little bit. He's buzzing around. He's maybe got something to share with us. But Gillian's been on quite a few times before, so if you've watched the Barefoot Broadcast, you'll have a real good feeling for Gillian. It's funny. Just a moment ago, I asked Gillian. I said, how would you like me to introduce you? And she's, what's your role? And, we all had this kind of backstage conversation, and she said, just kind of me, really. So anyway, I'm going to bring Gillian on now with her meanness, and also Jenny Ann Slater, who is an energy worker and alchemist working out of forestofthestars.com. So anyway, let's bring them on right now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me just move that around. So I've got you both at the top looking dazzling. So how are you both? This is the first time I've been with both of you at the same time. It's really nice.
Wow. First of all, thanks very much for inviting me today, Louisa, and Gillian for recommending that I join in the chat, because it's an incredibly juicy topic. Yeah, I am good today and raring to go.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. It was Gillian's fantastic recommendation, because when I saw you, was it a month ago in Portugal?
Yes, it was last month.
I did say, I'm doing this new show and I'd love you to come on. And, I just hadn't got round to it. So Gillian gave me a fantastic prompt there. I see you're back in France now. What's it like in France?
Initially, very, very strange. I was out this morning and dropping all these Portuguese words in my sentences.
Yeah,
which is pretty good, because before we went away, it was French coming out to play when I was speaking Portuguese. All I can say is that I'm really relieved to be talking in my native tongue today.
Fantastic. And Gillian, how are you today? You're coming to us. Is it sunny where you are?
No, it's been every season, and the last few days it's been every season each day each hour. Each day.
Oh my word.
It's funny, when we came on camera, I just thought, gosh, that's my mother looking back at me.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I know that feeling as well.
I'm kind of getting that sense more and more, but this time it was just like, it's actually quite nice to see her. I haven't seen her for 30 years nearly.
Oh, wow. What a nice thought. But it's funny, when I tie my hair back, I sometimes think I see my dad, and yeah, weird, isn't it? How we become our parents. And maybe that will come up in today's conversation. We're also joined we've got Siri, who's joining us from Norway. Morning, Siri, although it's almost late morning for you. We've also got Carl upstairs listening in. So hola, bon dia for him. We've also got Carol George joining us. Hi, Carol.
Oh, hi, Carol. Hello. And hello, everybody who's joined in today. Thanks ever so much.
Isn't that lovely? We've got a really nice crowd.
Yes.
And please do, if you've got some thoughts about the whole idea of soul contracts, please do write down your thoughts that you're happy to share, and you'll become part of our conversation. So anyway, do we have soul contracts with each other? A pretty massive topic. Oh, we're also joined by Vivian in North Portugal. When you tie your hair back, Bob and I see Digby, my oldest son. Bless you. Thank you for popping that in. So where do we start with this? Gillian, where do you think we start with the whole topic of soul contracts?
This is the interesting thing. This is why I was so keen that it wasn't just me on the show today, because at the moment it feels like just throwing everything up in the air and what actually exists. Yeah. So because, and I think maybe it's something to do with the eclipse coming up tomorrow, but I think it's more than that. At the moment, and I love for the craziness that is out there. I love it because it's much easier to see stuff when it's outside of ourselves.
Yes, isn't it?
And so we've got this great backdrop of all this, and I mean, whatever you believe, you'll find it there.
Yeah.
Whatever you believe, that the world's made by, I don't know, Tic Tacs, and for those of us who can remember Tic Tacs, that they're actually sentient beings and they're controlling the world. So I'm just thinking Tic Tacs might be actually, roofing tax or something to some people. But anyway,
no, Tic Tacs, lovely little sweets.
Aren't old enough. They were little sweets that used to rattle and shake, and you couldn't have the fact you had a pack in your pocket. But
they do still sell them. Our kids love them.
Do they?
Yeah. They come in 2 flavors now. So you have like one flavor on one side, one flavor on the other.
Oh, I think I have seen them, like orange,
very flash,
something like that. Yeah. But yeah, so it doesn't matter what anybody believes, that it's out there, which kind of seems to sort of endorse everybody's beliefs, however stretchy they are. But that's fine too. And I really think, I mean, I know my biggest piece at the moment is just trying to understand who I actually am so I can be it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. But I it depends. Maybe I'm lucky that I can stop and not be distracted from that.
Yeah.
So if you ask most people who they are, they're too busy to even engage the question. In most cases, I'm not saying on all cases. So in terms of soul contracts, since we are talking about soul contracts, I've often said that we're having the experience. We're almost experiencing a sort of what exists within the cradle of our stories. So if we believe in soul contracts, then we'll have the experience of soul contracts.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that phrase. What exists in the cradle of our stories. It's beautiful. Because it really brings up this idea that, I always think of a cradle as a place, where things are nurtured and, where things sit for a while and they might grow up in it a little bit. So I like the fact that stories may well come from a cradle. I love that. Dr. Joe Delaney saying it's the greatest show on earth. I'm not sure if he's talking about us. But
Sure is.
I think he's actually talking about life. Like you were saying, Gillian, that whatever you're wanting to see, that's what kind of shows up. And Vivian S is saying, I firmly believe in sacred soul contracts. Tell us more about that, Vivian. I want to know a bit more about that. What are your thoughts, Jenny?
Gosh, I've got so many layers with this one. What Gillian's saying is really, really resonating. But I think, the bit about being too busy to go inside and to reflect, who am I really? And I think at its most basic level, I am a fractal of source who's shot down to take part in this, what appears to be sometimes madness going on in the external, when in fact we are on Earth birthing and evolving and transforming what has actually developed over thousands and thousands of years. And I think in amongst all of this, the whole notion of soul contracts, to me, it is evolving as well. It's where to start and sort of pare it back. But I do believe that, we've all come into human form, into our skin suits, at this time in particular of great change on the earth. Now, how people perceive that and how the changes are coming about, we each have different viewpoints. I have my feet connected firmly on the earth, but I also connect with the cosmos. And I do believe that at this time, there are some very, maybe this is something we can talk a bit more as this topic develops, but I do see all these amazing new children and babies coming into human form, and they have inbuilt bullshit detectors, pardon my French. They know when they're being spun a line to. I think, I'm not a parent, but I think as a parent, it must be pretty challenging actually answering all the questions that they do come up with. Excuse me. And they have not been programmed. I came across quite a lot of families in Portugal who were homeschooling, and the children were really, really charming to be with. And they were their own people. They were not conforming to what was on the school curriculum. They were following what lit themselves up. They were articulate. They were just incredibly switched on. And my personal belief is that there are a lot of souls from very advanced places, whether it's star systems, whether it is inner earth. I'm not exactly 100% sure, but they sure are coming in, all lights blazing, with big ideas. And I think a lot of their parents, sort of in their 30s, are already, I don't like labels. And like Gillian says, it's really, really difficult saying, if people are indigo souls, etc. But, the sort of the warrior, I don't even like the term archetype these days. But, the people who were the rebels in school, etc., and question, why are we wearing uniform?
That was me.
Pythagoras' first name was one of the things I asked. I wasn't interested in maths at all. But there is just so much change. The other theme, I think, which has touched a lot of our lives in the past few years, is that there seems to be a mass exit of souls on our planet right now, through illness, through, things like earthquakes, natural disasters. And I do feel that at some level, before we come into human form, we certainly have groups of souls that we come back to interact with while we're during our earth walk here. Is it making sense?
No, it's fascinating, and it's brought up lots of ideas that I was writing down. I really like what you said. Are we like what you both actually said? Actually, Gillian, you started it with, "Are we too busy to know and to tune in?" And I really like what you said. I am a fractal of source who shot down here. I love that. What arose for me as I was listening to both of you was, some of us seem to be born with a sense of purpose. Like we have that sense, oh, I'm here and I'm here for a reason. No, I don't think everyone has that. I know people who just kind of sort of accept that they are here and there's no questioning about it. But I've definitely met lots of people who have that sense of, oh yeah, I'm here for a reason. The other thing that occurs to me is that there's a lot of people that are talking about now is the time. And I certainly had a really strong feeling of that at the start of what many people call the pandemic. And, I had this sense of, wow, it feels like I was meant to be here at this time. That felt very strong for me. And I certainly meet a lot of people who appear to know, they have a sense of knowing. We've got people listening in, sharing some of their views, and Portuguese is saying, surely a contract is with two or more parties. Do I have a soul contract with my missus? We are cut from the same cloth. And Vivian is saying, I believe you do. And she's also saying, yes, Gillian. And also we all have a purpose in being here. So I do get the sense that some people really feel it and some people maybe don't pay it that much attention. But interesting what Portuguese was saying, do I have a contract? And what occurs to me is the idea of connection. I definitely felt with Carl when I met him, oh, I was meant to meet you. And then things flowed very, very quickly. And we do seem to have these relationships whereby we suddenly meet somebody and then something catalyzes or comes into play.
Can I? Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. When I said, you know, we're held in a cradle of our own stories. That doesn't take much for that cradle to morph into a sort of tangle.
Yeah.
So this is the whole thing. So this is what I see. That's where I was going with that, because this is where I see all of these kind of contracts. They're all threads, which can support or bind the same thing. So it's you know, and I can't remember who it was that said about, does it not take a, you know, the contract needs agreement between two, but there's a lot of implicit contracts going on. And, you know, the word soul in that, you know, soul contract piece is almost arbitrary, because it's in the unseen. So you can attribute it to the soul or not, but it's the same effect.
Yes.
Am I making sense? So it's, so, you know, if you think about it, it's the spider's web effect very easily. And most of our, if it just spend half an hour or 5 minutes just looking at your experience, watching your experience. I'm a watcher, so I just sit and I just watch. Okay, that's interesting, and then just watch all the different patterns. I love patterns too. So so it's most of our experiences are basically just this kind of thread work between experiences that we've had in the past. They're kind of coming through the prism of our past, or what we perceive to be our past. Yeah, I mean, you know, past doesn't exist anyway. I mean, this is the whole thing. You know, linear time does not exist, and this has always been a challenge for me, because I don't do linear time, and I never have done linear time, but I watch everybody else. They seem to be doing this thing called linear time. So I look at somebody, they're doing well, and I'll copy them. I mean, I'm good at copying people who seem to understand it. It's never made any sense to me what's going on here.
Would you sorry to interrupt, would you be able to elaborate what that is like for you, and how you know you don't do linear time in the same way? Because a lot of people, see, I know you, although we've never actually physically met, we've interacted so much in the last 5, 6, maybe 7 years even. It's been quite a while. But there's lots of people that maybe, there might be lots of people that don't understand what you're sharing there, Gillian, because it's so kind of far out from where they might be.
It isn't so, because I believe everybody's having this experience, but they're being told they're having another experience. So no wonder people are confused. So, but if you think there's no such thing as linear time, but well, the illusion of linear time has been breaking down rapidly recently, and that I find fascinating, because I'm seeing people going, well, what's going on here? Time seems to be speeding up, but it actually isn't, because if you think about it, there is no such thing as linear time or space. So everything is here and now. So that makes time travel super easy, because you just basically, you know, move there. You're already there. So you basically put your focus there, and then you're there. Am I making sense with that?
Well, I mean, you are to me, because I understand what you mean, or I think I understand, or I have my own understanding, which makes sense to me because it matches what I have a knowing about or a feeling about. And I guess for people who don't have a sense of that, what I would bring up is the idea of, if you've seen the film Minority Report or similar things, where there's like a head-up display and you can almost scroll through a different time, zip into the future, zip back, and kind of insert yourself. You know, my understanding is that there are people who can focus on time and find themselves there to be able to interact with it or experience it. And a bit like, I guess, people who maybe the idea of channel is a funny word as well, but there are people who can connect into people from a different time who we know have passed away and receive messages. And you know, there are people that talk to people who are allegedly in the future. So there's all these different kind of things going on. You want to say something, Gillian?
No, I've just spotted something, because the other thing is too, when things seem to, it's not even they get fast, they get intense. There's a lot going on. I find it really tricky to wait my time in a conversation, because it's perfect. I mean, in truth, if everything is here and now, we can all talk at the same time, and it's perfect too.
Yeah.
I sorry.
I really struggle with that. I remember spending a good month in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I was delivering training to a load of locals, and everyone talking at the same time. I could not understand a flipping word. So I think I would actually struggle a bit if you guys were talking at the same time. Maybe there's a part of me that would know. Do you know what? Talking about the intensity that's building, we've got a flurry of comments. So I just want to read them out, because I have a feeling this is all going to do, like what normally happens here, the magic sort of arises. I really liked this, that Dr. Joe said, I agree. I feel that there are two eugenics agendas occurring, one natural, one manipulated. I think that's in response to what you were saying, Jenny, about it feels like there are lots of people leaving, and there's a sensation of people arriving as well. I know in the work that I've been doing, there is, I don't know, there's more of a noticing of people departing at a stage that doesn't match their, the right age, the right story of when people leave. So I would concur with that. Vivian saying, we don't always know that we have a purpose, but I think we all have one, some large, some small. And even like from the position of being a small little cog in a big wheel, you don't really realize just how much impact you have, do you? So Siri from Norway saying, speaking from my experience, I know I'm here for a specific reason, yet not all of us are awake and conscious about this. I've been called kind of a lighter for people, making them ready. Also, I know my own power, as I also wish more people knew. Contracts come clear to you when you aren't able to find a way to tear away from someone or some situation without feeling soul pain. Oh, I really feel that, which turns into physical pain. I could talk about this for hours, haha. And she's adding, I think a lot of us are probably nodding their heads in that. Know their own power and that they're here for their reason. Sorry for coming through as selfish, not intended. I don't think you do at all. I think it's lovely. Thank you. And Sarah is saying, have you noticed faces who show up where you are repeatedly and even great distances away from the last sighting? I have, and I think to myself, we're doing this together. Interesting. Sarah, when you say that, are like faces coming out at you, or you're just seeing somebody that you knew, like the face that reminds you of somebody that you've known from a different place? I'm curious about that. Dr. Joe is also saying, what a great conversation. Freedom occurs in no time. I love that. Oh my goodness, there's loads of comments coming in. This is the global nobles, contracts, absolutely yes. Don't you just sometimes feel that when you meet these certain individuals that they are here to guide you along your path? I feel like they have a certain sparkle. That's lovely. Bobby's working with this for his shoulder injury, having it time travel back to pre-injury status. That's very clever. I like that. Gillian's nodding. That's good. Sarah's saying, also people you meet, some of them, I can sense a history with them. I know them already. I love that. So yes, Sarah, that's exactly how I feel. So there's a really lovely resonance building here. What would you like to add from what you just heard or, comment on?
I think it was Bob, wasn't it, with his shoulder?
Yeah.
And somebody else said something else after that, relative to that. It's I'm a lot of the time I'm watching who I am in terms of just the reflection of what's around me, but and my work and stuff like that. And I'm realizing one of the things I do, I find it very easy to be in the. This is where language, I think, is really limiting. But what people call the field, I think, is what I'm talking about. But I don't know. It's that non-material existence. It's almost like the pre-matter stage. I find it easy to be embodied in that, if that makes sense, to hold form within that. Whereas I think, I said I think, so it might be nonsense. I think other people basically it's almost like the sort of the urge to dematerialize in that. So when I'm working with folks, it's almost like taking them into that as much as they can tolerate, and then holding that space for them to be in form in that space, because in that space all potentiality and all possibilities available. Am I making sense with that?
Yeah, totally.
So And but it's really interesting watching people, because again, it's these snagging of the stories will determine how easily they can move into that. I mean, I've watched one person in particular, because it was the first individual I saw be able to do that. They literally just went straight back to their sort of source form and then came back with everything.
Wow.
We're able to do that, and it's almost like I can hold that space wherever anybody's ready to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, Bob, perfectly well. You can just get that, because linear time does not exist. It's just the other interesting thing is I'm obviously holding a few stories like that because I can hold it for other people. Doesn't work the same for me, because so I'm not holding myself up as, oh, look at me, I'm so sorted and I've got it all. But, so because I watch and it's like, okay, what's the story running now?
Yeah. Yes, it's amazing. And what you just shared there is just like you go around to the house of a builder whose house is usually an absolute sham because he does it for everyone else. And someone said to me, oh yeah, you've got such and such going over this part of your chart. And I was like, what? I rarely look at my birth chart, but I'm always checking in for other people. Totally respond to that. Yeah, so my understanding and my experience, my direct experience of working with you, Gillian, is that you're able to almost like if you were in the movies, the Minority Report, it's like you scan to the time, you open up this like space for people to kind of climb into or find themselves in, and there might be a gift, there might be some knowledge, there might be something there for them to interact with. And it reminds me of when I was a small child. I had this sense that there was a place that I could go to, and in my head, it was, under a cupboard and behind something. But I used to visualize myself going in, and I would have this sense of whatever I needed was there. And because of the times, it was like early 80s, it was in the form of a Betamax video. And I would imagine like putting it into this like little hole in the wall. And I had the sense, a bit like Superman, who can put a crystal into a little location in the North Pole. And then he gets this information, or the sense that information comes to him. So I think there are these like moments in time that we can almost grab. There are these little hooks in different spaces, but actually they're all around us all the time.
Really interesting. When you shared that story, I could feel it starting to open. I could feel that space opening.
Yeah.
Anybody else sense that? Could you sense it, Jenny?
I could, yeah.
Really interesting, actually.
No,
don't forget.
If we could all do that right now, imagine our space opening and opening.
Well, my sense is it is doing. That's what I was
It is.
And I was also just checking in with everybody else on the call, whether they're included in that. I sense they are.
Yeah, they are.
So it'd be interesting in the comments if anybody wants to just say whether they're sensing it as well.
Oh, hang on. Let me just bring this one up. Hang on. Siri is saying, Gillian and Jenny, I have doodles for your souls. I can send them via PM if you want to.
Thank you.
Would you like them privately messaged to you, or would you like them to go on the screen? It's up to you.
I'm quite happy for mine to go on the screen. That would actually be quite fun. If
do you feel like that's more, Gillian?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Siri, if you send it to me via Facebook, I'll put them on the screen, because Siri, she draws it all out. I don't know if you know Siri or not, but Siri is a really talented illustrator and artist, and she connects in at the soul level.
How lovely. The mention of your name, Siri, my cat's just coming about. She's curled up right beside me.
Oh,
and she is very energy sensitive. So I think the alchemy that we're creating in a group here.
Which cat is it?
It's Pixie. It's the little red cat.
Oh,
it's really sweet.
Oh, I love these cosmic cats and stuff. Siri, if you send them to me via Messenger, then I will share them by the end of. I'll do it by the end of the show. So we've got some more comments coming in. And Sarah is saying, it's people that I recognize. I notice faces and I remember them. And that's the sense I get, is that, for instance, when I first met you, Sarah, in the flesh, it was like a knowing that I'd knew you before. And I felt this very strong, warm, heart sensation, a bit like when I met you, Jenny, and I know that I would feel that when I actually physically meet you, Gillian, but there is that feeling of a bond, a connection that kind of transcends time and space. Siri is saying it's the feeling of coming home when seeing, if meeting another soul, we are definitely like doing this together. Portuguese is saying it's like the first eye contact, instantaneous connection has been established, like a familiarity of deep friendship, even though you just met them. I mean, it's funny, isn't it, when it happens? And he's saying, I just love it when this happens. What's Joe saying? He's saying, is this what you mean, Gillian? Quantum displacement and perennialness.
Oh, that's glorious.
Let's see if you can get some more syllables in just to make it even harder for me.
I actually felt pressure when I saw he was on the call. I thought he's going to do intelligent things.
Oh, well, isn't that interesting? There's obviously an interesting sort of energy going on right now, because Sarah's saying, I actually just zoned out completely while you were talking, Louisa. I can't even remember what you said. How's that for expansion? Oh, we're joined by Soli Mo. Hi from Belgium. Hi, Soli. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much. It's nice. This is a new friend from a different channel, in fact. And Sarah's saying, me too, Louisa, I recognize you. That's lovely, isn't it? And I do have this sense, and maybe you share this, but I have this sense that at the moment there are more people coming into my life that I recognize or know or have that sense of deep belonging with. Is that happening with you guys?
Yes. Do you know this? It was instantaneous on so many occasions when we were in Portugal. And one of the most profound experiences was we made friends with a young German family, and we were invited to their children's name blessing, and they were having a marriage ceremony as well. It was beautiful. It was open air. And their youngest was 15 months old. And his mum asked if I would hold him for a minute. And we'd been with them all afternoon, and he was comfortable. And I picked him up, and he had ice grey blue eyes.
Oh, wow.
Fair hair, and he just looked me straight in the eyes, and honestly I could feel my body lighting up with all these light codes, energetic information coming in, and I was feeling the exchange with him, and at a soul level it was just this eye gaze with this beautiful infant. I almost feel like being close to tears just recalling it, because it was just, we've met again. Just a beautiful little soul. And it was the same with his elder brother and his sister. They were all under 5, but just, and it got me thinking, I wonder where we've come across each other before and what we've been contracted to do. But it was so powerful. And my husband, Derek, Gillian's met him. He's very switched on, but he's also very practical and very matter of fact. And one of the first things he said, oh my goodness, Noah's eyes. Did you feel a bit strange when you looked into them? And the word I used was, I felt like I'd just come home. I think it was Portuguese who mentioned that, but it was, and it wasn't a long interaction. It was just such an empowering reconnection. And I think that's happening more and more. And one of the guidances that I received just from getting still in the mountains with my feet in the river in Portugal was just to make as much eye contact with people momentarily. So we were in Coimbra, and I was going down the street and just smiling randomly, not expecting anything, and looking people in the eye. And it was almost like there was this exchange going on. And through doing that, it was assisting in the collective switching on of people to reconnect them with the bit that they've been too busy to actually connect with.
I just
had to say that.
Oh, I'm so pleased you did, because I'm feeling like I'm being switched on right now, or I'm again, the awareness, it feels like things are getting bigger and bigger and more expanded. And I think as you were sharing that story, I was feeling that completely, as if I was there. Gillian, you're looking beatific there. Where are you right now, darling?
It's interesting, because I've always had this sense, but it's because I don't do linear time, and I sense I've never done linear time. It's a bit like sort of once I stopped doing dairy, I realized I've probably always been dairy intolerant. Do you know what I mean? It's like whether we're not all, but it's I remember when I was little. I mean, really little. It was like I knew I could fly unaided. I knew I could move. I changed the nature of matter. I knew I could move things. All of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I also knew it was against the rules to do it, and it was against the rules to tell anyone. So I suppose we always think we're normal. At this stage, we realise we're not. Well, until we get to that point where we're really not. So I don't, but our own experience is normal anyway. So I don't know whether that is the case for most folks or whatever, or whether it is a facet of me not doing linear time. So it was almost like, these connections, I just, I would look in people's eyes, I knew them. And it actually, when I look back, it's always been the case when people can't walk into my work, sort of, often it's been people coming to work with me I've never met before. I look in their eyes and I know them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I again, it's my head, so it might be nonsense, but it's I was sort of I was stringing the story that basically everybody in this Earth Walk is somebody that we've, even as somebody passing on the street, we've known them already. Then there's no extras anymore in that regard in this story of that's unfolding in our experience. But then I don't know, and because I love patterns and I love watching, there's so many different narratives going on at the moment. It's fascinating. It's like it's just switching channels and getting another movie going on.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. So in some way, it's funny, the words want to come, how can we not be all connected? It's almost like, why are we talking about exactly could we possibly be connected when there's no possible way that it could be any other way?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What occurs to me, so we're talking about, do we have soul contracts with each other? That's assuming that we're all separate and yet sort of connected by some arrangement. But maybe the bigger question is, are we all actually the same person or the same energy, the same thread of divinity, the same spark, just being reflected and projected in different ways?
Can I give the sort of, I mean, to me, the sort of a very simplified version of the Hindu creation myth works in this one. In the beginning, there was the unified deity, and that unified deity desired companionship. So it split into Shiva, it split into Shakti. And then as soon as they were separate, that works better when I can spread my arms wider. And these would be wide. But so imagine there's a lot of space between these two. So, and as soon as they were separate, they desired companionship. So they, of course, desired union. So, of course, there's always this dance of coming together and separating, together and separating. But in this space, there's not a lot. Sorry, this is the right. It's the left hand
reverse.
I found it really tricky I'm a bit dyspraxic. Well, I'm very dyspraxic. So it's like there's all sorts of things fusing in my head. So the in this space, when they're separate, there's a lot of power and energy, but there's not a lot of ease. And in this, there's a lot of ease and comfort and coziness and everything else like that. But not, it's like, they've been smoking cannabis, I think, in this state. Cannabis has never agreed with me. It makes me ill, but I can watching people, I can see, oh, whatever.
Yes. When people come together, they may well have a sort of crescendo as they're, and we were talking about the power of orgasms yesterday, right at the end of yesterday's show. But immediately after,
it's like they're sort of almost there, and it's like
and then all of a sudden we all fall into a sweaty mess, don't we?
Yeah, but it's that sort of this. I think this is where we're at the moment. So we've been in this. I mean, we came here to have an experience of separation. Haven't we done great?
We've done really
well. Done amazingly, honestly.
And so it's not comfortable in this space, but it's an amazing experience we've given ourselves.
Yeah.
And, so now we're at this stage, and because we're so close, it's actually almost more uncomfortable.
Yes. It's interesting. While you were saying that, Joe was saying my knee just started to tremble.
Yeah.
Vivian, I think you're when you're saying yes, I love that, Jenny, and I love that, Gillian. I think you've got them round the other way, and that's my fault. Not this is Gillian. Sorry, Gillian is at the top right of the screen. Is this who you're talking about, Gillian? Could you elaborate on why you feel there are no extras anymore?
I can't remember. What did I say? That's the part of the problem.
It feels like there's no extras anymore. Like everybody.
No, I mean, as in everybody's a key. Oh, well, what I'm thinking. Do you ever remember the Hammer House?
Thanks, Vivian, for sharing that. And
yeah, no, perfect. Does anybody here? Well,
actually, I'll swap you around so you've got your names kind of on the right side. You know, Gillian is that side, and then Jenny is that side.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
That makes sense.
Sorry, Gillian.
No, that's fine. I don't know whether anybody here remembers. Were they Hammer horror movies or something? And there was never any extras in them. If there was always, they were really kitschy horror movies that I mean, really nothing bad happened in them. Except, you know, they're meant to be horror movies, but they were sort of kind of anyway. You know, if you saw somebody walking along the street, they would come into the plot somewhere. You know, they were a baddie or a goodie or something, but there was something else. And it almost feels the same here, not without all the nonsense that was going on in those movies, but it's like you might pass somebody in the street, they're somehow connected to your story.
Yeah.
So and this might be what you're calling soul contracts, but I mean the other one, it's interesting because often people will talk about soul contracts as if they're good things.
Yes, that's
what I mean about the tangle. There's so many. It's like, oh, do you have to show up again? What have I not sorted with you?
Yeah. Yes. I've definitely been asking myself over the last few years, oh my goodness, I'm getting quite a few experiences of a similar nature. Wow, what's going on? Because it's almost like if it's not resolved with one interaction, it comes up again with somebody else. It's like a bit like Agent Smith in The Matrix. There are lots of Agent Smiths that will help you to learn the same thing again and again and again until finally you get it. And it's like, well, finally that's done. Wow. We've got quite a few comments, so I just want to share some. So Joe saying close encounters of the fifth kind. Owen saying, I feel that at this time that we were meant to be together to connect with similar souls, to experience the moment as one. And Sarah saying, I love that. I do that all the time. This is for you, Gillian. You are linear time tolerant. So, Gillian, you're not dairy intolerant. You're just linear time intolerant. Carl is so quirky. I love it. Sarah saying we need to remember too, not all soul contracts feel pleasant. That's just what you were saying, actually. Exactly. I've had a few of those too. Yeah, my knee started to tremble. I did have them switched. It's fine. And the funny thing is, I imagine that, you know, the more connected we are, the more easy it is for us to get confused with each other. So Dr. Joe, what's he saying? It's obviously something funny because Gillian's reading it already. I get this with wives. I've had 4 so far. Maybe I'm missing something.
Maybe he's missing 5th and 6th, 7th, 8th wife.
Yeah.
Well, isn't
it funny? I mean, I know 3 people who've married the same person a couple of times. You know, so they've got together, they split up, divorced, you know, got back, you know, married each other again. You know, sometimes we do need to keep going back, and there is that connection that just draws us back in. So where are we now in this conversation? What about the sense of purpose? How does purpose come into this? Because it's been hinted at a few times.
I don't know. The word purpose, that's another word that I feel is becoming a bit ropey. You know, I think that whatever we are doing at a particular time on a particular day, which is part of our human experience, is our purpose if we're in the now. I think perhaps from a soul perspective, there might be an overarching theme that we are here to gain a deeper understanding of at a soul level. But at another level, that feels to me incredibly limiting.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you do take just a recce of all the life experiences and what we were saying about the themes, especially the unpleasant ones, or the player characters in our sort of life stage, coming up with something that we haven't looked at. And I can use an example comfortable using an example from my own life. I incarnated this time into a very, again, words are limiting, sort of 3D family, where there were a lot of just everyday things to deal with. There was a lot of illness, there was disability, there was a lot of loss, there was a lot of change, there was a lot of having to grow up very, very quickly. And I carried a lot of emotional load, within my nuclear family. Yeah. And from an early age, from a soul perspective, I can now look with a more mature, linear time head and see that, my God, I developed such compassion for other people at a relatively early age. And that's something which influenced my career choice initially, because I worked in social work for 25 years and I worked with children and families and supporting childrenhood caring responsibilities. But then the other part that I came to realise around about the time of perimenopause is that I need to take care of myself and show myself amazing compassion and love and gentleness. All these goodies that I lavish on others, but had been pretty skimpy with myself. And there was a realization, that might be one of the threads of this lifetime, to come in and get a working knowledge of compassion for others, but also don't forget compassion towards me, because to bring it back to where we started was we're all connected, we're all coming from source, so there's no other really. Now I feel like I'm talking round in circles, so I don't know if you want to
I guess in many respects we are all of our conversations are going to be circular a little bit because of the nature of what we're talking about.
Not linear.
And I guess if we are all connected, when you were giving that exemplary care earlier in your career to others, you were by default also caring for yourself. So that is like circle. But I really like what you're saying about how the whole idea of having a purpose is actually quite limiting as a word. As I said that, I thought, that felt a bit off actually, like, do we have a purpose? Or, how does purpose fit into soul contracts? I love that. Thank you for your thoughts there. Well, what do you want to add in, Gillian, or what other thoughts are arising?
No, I was just thinking having a purpose, it's like having a job. I realized why I'm so resistant. It just took for that penny to drop. I don't like the idea of having a purpose. It's like, well, what if I'm not here for that? I might be here for that.
And who says like we have to do one thing?
I keep coming back to this, what is a contract at the end of the day? A contract is something that's offered to you. You can choose to agree to or not. And so I'm almost thinking we're being a bit casual with this idea of contracts, and do we have them or not?
Okay. Talk more about that.
Well, it's actually, it's interesting because I've been, he's probably not a persona non grata in certain ways, but he seems to be all over YouTube and no problems. There's a guy, Cal Washington, who he's worth checking out. His organization is Empower. But basically, he believes that the Bible is a book of commerce. And there's a lot more to it than that, so I'm not going to get into it. But I've just I tend to sort of, okay, this is time for this and this is time for that, and so it's time for me to go and start doing the work with him, or just with that within that. He's not putting himself up as a teacher or anything. He's a guy who got sort of has close contact with all of that system, and it's the system that governs the system that we're in.
Oh wow.
So it's massive, but anyway, he's saying, guard your signature. Basically, your signature can be turned into money in the current system. And beyond that, our compliance and our agreement to things basically governs our existence and our sole existence. I don't mean our sort of blip of existence here. So I'm sitting there thinking, this is actually bigger than we're treating it as.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to get all serious and somber, but
no, that's okay.
What are we actually sort of going, oh, we agreed to this, and isn't it wonderful? And oh yes, and I think, no, hang on a minute, there's more going on here. Watch what we're doing, what we're actually agreeing with our language, because with the next thing after our signature is our word.
Yeah.
And in Scotland in particular, in our written law, sort of a verbal contract is binding.
Wow.
So if I said to you, I'm going to give you my bleep, 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 I'm not going to put anything in there. I agree to give you my bleep, 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 bleep. You can have my bleep, bleep, bleep. You're welcome to it. Yeah. But do you know what I mean? And then, I'm sitting in Scotland. That's a binding contract. So I don't know that within the current legal system, whatever that legal system actually is, I don't know how much it will stand up. But anyway, in theory, it's binding. I mean, one of the things I just jotted down, it was, this would be about 20, probably at least 20 years ago. I can't remember how long ago. Probably longer than that ago. I took my. Oh, it actually wouldn't be that long. Yeah, not far off 20 years ago, because we were on holiday in Spain with my son, and I was thinking it would be the last holiday we'd go on together, because it would be too uncool going with mum after that. And I met this Cuban guy there, and I'm not going to go into too much of it, but it was a weird one, because he was probably the antithesis of Bonnie. Really physically unattractive man, and yet he looked like a monkey, and I don't mean to denigrate monkeys, but he did.
Right.
And there was just this stupid attraction there. And there was every reason why. I mean, he was an absolute chancer, player, everything, but there was just it was almost like sort of, I mean, I definitely could have chosen to say no. And then afterwards, it was like, because I watched patterns, I'm thinking, what is going on here? It was not normal. And lots of things started playing out there. I've still got friend connections on Facebook of a woman who was actually meant to be in a relationship with him, and then just different connections somehow. There was just there was it is very Cuban thing, and I don't mean to generalize, but anyway, but there seemed to be a sort of connection back to Atlantis there, and very strong connection. And it was like we'd agreed to come back and work together. And it was like he was working with energies I will not work with, and I do not choose, and I just downright wouldn't work with. And it was like, okay, I hear you, no. And it was as simple as that. But boy, it was strong. The sort of all of the different sort of oh, but we agreed, and all of this kind of stuff. So I just think it's worth stop, breathe, connect, and then what are you actually saying here? Because our words have power.
Yeah, that's very, very useful.
Words do indeed have power. I always think on the expression to spell. You are spelling, you are casting spells, you're weaving with your words.
Yes.
And I think, yes, the words that we're using. And the contract thing, at a soul level, I think I said initially that I feel we are at a time where a lot of the old contracts that we've agreed with the people in our lives, they are coming to an end. Or I know a lot of people whose relationships have broken down in the past few months. I know a lot of people, including ourselves, who are in the process of changing, country of residence, or they're moving house, and we thought we'd found our forever place in France. And it was just this sense that we both had that our work here is done. Our mission, whatever we were here to do, is just finito, basically. And it was challenging. There were no words to quantify. It was just this deep knowingness inside that, right, that's this part of the journey over. And we're on to the next bit, and that's when Portugal started to sing very, very loudly.
Yeah, it's funny. Go on, Gillian.
No, interestingly, Jenny, when you say our work here is done, I've been getting that, I mean, in this existence. I've been getting that a lot, and I know lots of people have been getting that. It's like, actually, you can go now. You've done everything you need to do here. So it's absolutely your choice. You can stay or go. You know, you can stay and see what's coming next, or you can go. And I will admit, there's been times I've thought, actually, I've really done enough now, and it's fine. But then I don't see, you know, sort of this big divide or chasm or anything between being incarnate and non-incarnate. You know, because we're all still, however we think we're experiencing, we're still all connected anyway. So you know, what form we choose to take, and I say choose to take because we are choosing every minute. You know, we every minute we take the next breath. We've actually chosen to take that next breath and to stay in this physical body, in this experience, in this sort of network of stories.
So if I unpack what I want to just check that my understanding of what we're talking about is, I mean, obviously, like, how can we absolutely check each other's understanding of things and know for sure what's going on for each other? But what I've taken or chosen to take from what you've said, Gillian, is that we may be operating through lots of pre-agreed contracts. We're making contracts without realizing, not being fully conscious of the contracts we're making using the words, and also with where we're putting our signature. And that may well have happened in the past as well, which can come up at any time. You know, like, you know, there may be people from our past with a different energy that suddenly arrive, and there is this feeling of, yeah, we've agreed to this. And then just what I heard a moment ago is that we still have the choice. So even if we've agreed to do something, every moment we are in the choosing. And that's something else that I think that's playing out unconsciously. There's a lot of people that might say, you agreed to this, therefore. And there's a lot of, and I think this has been kind of fostered into us through early childhood, and definitely through education, and definitely through ideas that we have about the law, that, you know, when you say something, that's it, it's done. But I like the fact that you're saying, no, we have the choice. And I think that's something that's not very strong in our consciousness at the moment. We're so easily programmed by the idea that, no, this is how it is, that it's become part of our language, part of our culture. So I really, you know, I would really like to emphasize that something is an agreement whilst we're all comfortable with it, and it's okay to change your mind at any point. It's okay to say, I'm done. And Sarah is actually saying we can, and she's mirroring actually, I think, what you're saying there, Gillian. We can destroy and uncreate contracts we have created. The idea that we are bound by them is programming.
The other thing that I think is key is the amount of tacit agreements that we have entered into, completely oblivious. The majority of agreements we've entered into, we're oblivious to. So always the first stage is bringing everything up into awareness. A first stage of everything is bringing things into awareness. You know, it's. I mean, I'm not great about doing this, but I find it easier if I just basically go out barefoot on the grass, and then just I like barefoot gardening and stuff like that. And there's certain things, or just washing the dishes, getting my hands in water. I find it easy there, just to still myself, just to start. Okay, what's here? What's here? What's here? What's here?
I love that. Jackie CDM is saying, my mother told me that she remembers being asked if she could deal with this life before arriving. I love that. Some people do have that sense of that.
Can I just, the other thing that you were saying about, I can't remember how you languaged it, but it just prompted me to think about politeness. It's this blooming being polite. And I basically lost £1,500 on a, you know, car the one time, and it was, and again, it's childhood conditioning of being good little boys and girls, and don't cause trouble, don't cause a fuss. I've got a friend who has no problems complaining about things, and I love it. I love watching that. It's like, oh, this is how you do it. But I also understand that for me anyway is, you know, sort of keep a low profile, and then you'll be safe. And I think there's a load of people still walking around with that.
Yeah.
It's that being invisible thing. So don't cause trouble. Don't, create ripples.
You're right, Gillian. The politeness thing is a real issue. I was involved in a situation a while ago with something that had been completely consensual, completely agreed to. And at some level, I didn't want to take up a particular offer because it didn't really fit in with how I do my life. And at one point, I took this offer that was laid out to me completely consensually. And I could have just said to this person, thank you for this offer. I've taken it up now. I really appreciate this. And I really feel enforced by this. Thank you so much for your help. But because of my programming and because at some level, I never really wanted to accept any help, I started by saying, I'm really sorry. I've taken this action and it doesn't feel right. And yet it did feel right. It was just like my inner programming to put myself lower down on the pecking or to put myself lower down and to apologize as my first position, rather than saying, thank you for that offer you offered me several times. I'm now taking it. I chose to say, I'm really sorry I did do that. And that really put me at a negative. And from that, because that was my opening position, I'm really sorry I did take this in the way that it was described. The person decided to take my apology as some kind of admittance of guilt. And then this whole karmic disaster came from it. And it was a massive shit show. And it was because I started from a place of apology. You're so right. Because if I hadn't have done that and I just said, that was great, that worked, thanks, there wouldn't have been any problem at all. There just wouldn't have been. And for me, the big learning was, why are you apologizing for things that like I haven't actually done a thing deliberately to hurt somebody. So it's interesting, isn't it, how we often denigrate ourselves or put ourselves down when we don't have to at all. Sorry, it was a bit of a rant there. I realize it's not helpful. And a lot of people that know me personally say, for God's sake, stop saying sorry. Every 5 minutes. Like, sorry about this. Sorry about this. Sorry about this. It's an addiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just realizing a summary might be then what I was saying there is we don't have soul contracts. We have offers of contracts almost.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then we can tacitly agree to them by not sort of basically assuming they're intact, which is kind of what you're talking about, as I understand.
Yes.
So we keep getting offers basically, which I think this is what we're having the experience of here. It's like, would you like a punch in the face? Well, no, thank you.
Yes.
But then you might actually want the punch in the face for whatever reason.
Yes. Yes, it's very interesting that you say that we keep getting these offers, because I think I have had a series of offers that actually haven't really fitted what I needed, or and they've just been there on the sidelines. And I think it's much easier, isn't it, to know what you may or may not need and to be a bit more relaxed around it. Fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, people turn back up in our lives and they're basically making an offer on the basis of what they're saying is a contract. But it's a contract in a different, I know I'm saying I don't believe in linear time and space, but it's a different time and space. And anyway, we're creating a reality, so we can make the rules.
Well, I mean, you're right with that as well. In my experience, some of my recent experiences have been absolutely, they've taught me something really powerful. And so things might feel really wonky at the time when they're like kicking off. There is a sense of gratitude, sometimes begrudgingly, but there is this sense of, that was working for me, not, against me. That was working to help me. Well, it's fascinating how this has wandered and drifted. We've got a couple more. We've got a comment here from Dr. Joe. I feel sometimes I overanalyze the analysis of the analysis, deeply ingrained program that's still moving. I love that. Okay, so
we have lots of fancy words for it.
Huh?
He has lots of fancy words for it, so it's okay.
Joe, come on, give us some more fancy words. So this has been quite fascinating actually, and it's been very upbeat, and then it's gone, there's a bit of a mystery, and what's going on. So any final thoughts? I mean, I think this is a subject we'll probably come back to another time as well, but what other thoughts would you like to leave us?
That's my thought, Louisa. I think we're just scratching the surface. There's so many areas that the discussion could go into, because I wondered if we'd talk about animals in our lives and, how they can keep coming back to us. But then that would lead on to talking about, I suppose, the concept of karma, etc. And I think that is something your flies come back.
Yeah, I've got a fly that really wants to connect with me.
And I think that's something, the new souls, the children and the babies coming into incarnation for a while on Earth, a lot of them are coming from places where there's no such thing as karma. Because, that, I think that may be another topic of discussion. That is something that was created to keep our experience on Earth as a separation, suffering, learning wheel of coming back. But sorry, I'm wandering off in different directions. But no, it's just the feeling that we're just scratching the surface with it. I really enjoyed taking part in this. I like getting stuck into,
I mean, maybe we should
conversation.
Let's resume this conversation another time and talk about animals, maybe, or just go a bit deeper. I mean, this week, like some of you that watch the show will know that this week we had this yowling outside our front door, and we thought one of our kittens had got locked out. We've got these two young cats that, they're kitten cats, I guess. And there was this new cat that had arrived, and she made it really obvious that she belongs with us now. Like, she didn't kind of come in and get vetted by us. She just came in and said, this is my house now. And she's still with us 4 days later. And she's made the decision. And Siri's saying, show the doodles, Louisa. So let me bring
a catalyst.
She is. So we've got this one here. So this is for Gillian.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I love, one of the things that I like about that is that sense of weightlessness.
Yeah.
Like you're sort of elongated through time and space. Really like that. And Jenny, you're like, ooh. Floating out. It's really lovely. I really like that. And also there's like this point of consciousness as well. They're really lovely.
They are. They're quite amazing.
Really charming.
Wow.
Right.
A soul doodle.
It's really lovely. Let me just bring the last comments back on, and then we'll wrap this up. And she's saying, you're welcome. Vivian saying, do you overthink as well, Dr. Joe? Yeah, absolutely. And then Jackie saying, this week I've had confirmation that a very big and hard part of my soul contract has ended. I wonder how you know that, Jackie. I mean, obviously you don't have to share it here, and it's that could be another massive discussion, obviously not about your life, but how do we know when something has ended? Is a pretty big thing for us to recognize. I hope you're okay. So final thoughts then.
Sorry, just
I feel like we're all gone quiet.
Okay.
I feel like I was caught by the teacher not concentrating. Sorry.
You're on another timeline.
My ruler out. Final thoughts then, Alexander.
It's slightly opening another one, but I'm just going to leave it as final thoughts. Because as Jenny was speaking there, and at other times during the conversation, my experience is that it's almost like we're almost having a chance to have a holographic experience of many different options of experiences.
Yes.
And I certainly am aware of that. It's like there's many lives going on at the same time, what we would call lives. And so this is the fascinating thing in watching what's going on in the pantomime stage, that everything is true and everything's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all goodies and they're all baddies and they're all neither.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not.
And so whenever I hear somebody, well, it's like this, and I think, sure? Maybe in that nano whatever over the existence.
Yeah. Yeah, a good point. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap this up. We're off for a nice weekend, little trip out. So I need to kind of run around and carry on packing and getting ready. And this conversation has definitely left me feeling very uplifted and ready for a new experience and lots of fun and stuff. Wherever you are in the world and wherever you've joined us from, I absolutely love and honor you. Thank you so much for joining us and contributing. And I really feel that this is a co-creation, isn't it, of all of us? Wherever we are, who knows how many time realities we've reached. It's a bit too linear to say which countries you're in and stuff and which bodies you're sat in, but thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Gillian Alexander. What's your website, Gillian? Are you happy to?
Yeah, www.sacredtouch.co.uk. It's prehistoric and needing updated, but it's there.
Mine's a bit like that as well. And Jenny, thank you so much.
We are.
Go on.
Thank you, Louisa, and thanks everybody who's taken the time to sit and join in this energetic exchange. Deeply honoured by your presence. And we can be contacted on www.forestofthestars.com. And like you both, our website is needing a bit of updating, but it has a big heart.
Do you know what? I think we're coming out of the time of websites now, aren't we?
Yes.
They don't seem to be so relevant these days.
No.
Yeah, I always think it's just if somebody's drawn to work with somebody, then contact them.
They will.
Yeah. What a relief, actually. That's a
I know.
Relief for me. Anyway, thank you so much. Wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Louisa. Enjoy your weekend.
And hopefully we'll all connect again soon. So lots of love.
Thank you. Lots of love.
Bye.
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 We got some lovely comments just coming in. Let's just show the last ones and then I really will shove off and leave you to enjoy yourself. So thank you for this talk, ladies. Much timeless love, Siri. Thank you, everyone from Owen. And also thank you all. That was very interesting and fun from Carol George. Much love. Bye for now.